Now, on this program, we have followed Jacinta Price from a passionate Australian who was a local councillor on the Alice Springs Council, all the way through to her barnstorming into the Senate, speaking truth to power about the difficulties in the heart of our country, and her advocacy passion, of course, led the country to rejecting more talk and a commitment to more action about helping the people in Alice Springs. Of course, Peter Dutton has been by her side, championing her all the way into his shadow cabinet, and as you will have heard over the past few days, she has been promoted. She will, of course, as always, maintain a complete passion about Indigenous affairs, but her passion and her capacity to prosecute an image is now, an issue, I should say, is now being moved into an area where she's now going to start to talk about some of the finances of this country. She'll be on the show a little bit later, but there's a reason I'm talking about all of this at the start. The left is frightened of how effective Jacinta Nampijinpa Price is at getting to the heart of the matter, exposing the failures of the system, and willing to tell uncomfortable truths. Now, remember when she was in Canberra in the early days of being a senator and she brought people who were victims of abuse to Canberra and went from door to door to door to media organisations who weren't interested because it was counter to the narrative at the time that was all about changing words in the Constitution, yet she still powered on. Well, she will now do so about the finances of this country. She's been moved to the position now where she is going to be having a look at government efficiency. This is not just your classic opposition waste watch person, but a person who understands where all of the money is shuffled around, moved about, wasted, hidden. It'll be her job between now and the election to expose it, and hopefully after the election to do something about it.
I think the work that Jacinta will do, which will come under the Prime Minister and Cabinet portfolio in government, will be to find Labor's waste.
But because she is effective, and that is often the greatest indication about the loudest voices that scream back at you, when you are effective, when you are hovering over the target, when you are getting close to the big red button that industries of people want to protect, they go at you, and they go at you very personally. Examples of it that are already up and online are trying to float a ridiculous characterisation that Jacinta Nampijinpa Price is a person who, while looking for efficiency in the federal government, is living the high life via the taxpayer dollar on top of her wage, particularly through things like travel claims. This sort of crap is all over the internet, screeded by people who are running for the Senate as well. Rather odd for a senator who is amongst the top spenders on parliamentary expenses in relation to her current position, considering the new role. Plenty of other senators spend way less than Price, so she's not really efficient with taxpayers' money. Now, this has been tried a few times. The Sydney Morning Herald, The Age, they tried this. They tried this, remember, at the heart of the Voice campaign, to pretend that somehow there was something inauthentic about a woman who is from, has represented, lives and loves Alice Springs. Now, to all of the lefties who are going to try this again with Jacinta Nampijinpa Price, I want to arm everyone who sees this crap to respond with the facts, okay? Now, let's start at the very simple level for those who will have no interest in the truth, but they need to be educated. Obviously, Alice Springs requires a lot more travel to get to places like Canberra than other parts of our country. It is literally in the heart of our country. If you've been, you know how special the country around it is. If you have not, you know how difficult some of the times are in the town. And if you have truly been to the town at night and travelled a little further away from the lights, you know about the men and particularly women and children of which she speaks and represents, truly forgotten people. To give you an idea, if you are going to be one of these lazy people that is going to try this crap on with this very effective, very passionate Australian who should be at the absolute front of our political class, Alice Springs is hard to get to. In fact, I did the numbers for you today. if you want to drive from Alice Springs to Darwin, it's 15 hours. If you want to drive to Melbourne, it's a 23-hour, 49-minute. It is a day in the car, no stops, no rests. It's even longer if you want to drive to Canberra, because there's not actually a direct route. You've sort of got to go down South Australia, Victoria, back up, or you've got to go over the top through Queensland and down. That is why Jacinta Price, obviously, when possible, will try to use the fastest form of transport, like every other MP is entitled to, which of course is to fly. But let me explain how difficult flying is from Alice Springs. There are no direct flights from Alice Springs to Canberra, and they're expensive. And the first flight is not when the sun comes up. Instead, you actually have to wait for the first flight to come from, say, a place like Sydney or Brisbane to get to Darwin, then turn around and go from Darwin to Alice Springs, and then that's your first chance to get out of there. So I thought about this. OK, let's show how difficult it would be for Jacinta Price or anyone else to go from Alice Springs to Canberra quickly. Tomorrow, the first flight leaves at 11:40 in the morning. You don't get to Sydney till 4 o'clock. Remember, the time zones flip around here. You then have to wait for an hour and a half at the airport before, at 5:30, you get to fly from Sydney and arrive in Canberra at 6:30. You can't leave by plane until 11:40 in the morning, and you don't get to where you're going till 6:30 at night. An entire day in the air. Meaning, if you've got meetings on a Monday, you're probably flying on a Sunday, all right? May I continue to, again, hammer home the point to the idiots who are going to try to come after this woman, pretending that she is something other than what she is. When you've got to fly back, just as difficult. Imagine the journey of having to go from Canberra to Melbourne, then having to wait, then going from Melbourne to Adelaide, then flying from Adelaide to Alice Springs. You would leave the tarmac at 10 in the morning, you get home at 3:15. That's the reality. And by the way, how much does that cost? I did this on Webjet today. $1,500. So there is no sort of, $30 Jetstar option, not that any politician or many of the people that will be hanging it on her will be doing that. So yeah, it's expensive to be a politician in remote regional Australia. It's expensive to not live in a capital city. It is expensive to fly from the middle of the country. So next time you see some sort of garbage story pretending that the person in charge of searching for government efficiency is a person who just is spending taxpayers' money with abandon, send them this video, because it's BS. They know it, and it's up to you to push back as well.